Well, this is the governor.
Oh, Yabba Dabba Doo. I like Yabba Dabba Doo. Where's the dinosaur?
Yeah, this is Jabba Dabba Doo. Fred Flintstone talking, telling Christy Noam to get out of Chicago.
Let me just say that the secretary doesn't know what she's talking about. She frankly says that people are clapping. They're not. They're booing her on the street, and they're booing ICE and CBP. They're marching, the CBP marching on a beautiful Sunday in Michigan Avenue in downtown Chicago. They're raiding neighborhoods where instead of going after the bad guys, they're just picking up people who are brown and black and then checking their credentials. Are you a U.S. citizen? I don't know about you, but I don't carry around papers that say I'm a U.S. citizen. So you can imagine people are getting detained, they're getting arrested, U.S. citizens. And they did this, of course, when they raided a building in the middle of the night in South Shore. 130 people that were emptied out of this building. They were going after a few gang members, and instead they broke windows, they broke down doors, they ransacked the place, and there were people that were held, I mean, elderly people and children zip-tied. Elderly people held for 3 hours at a time. They are the ones that are making it a war zone. They need to get out of Chicago if they're not going to focus on the worst of the worst, which is what the president said they were going to do. They need to get the heck out.
The worst of Chicago, they placed them in the urban black areas, lower income buildings and facilities. So where ICE is going is where the criminals are. Where ICE is going is where the illegals are. You guys, city officials in Chicago, New York, Boston, Portland, California, and everywhere else, you harbored these illegals specifically in poor black communities, urban communities. If it's Hispanic community, because they do have Hispanic community in Chicago, their people are going to protect their people. That's why you see all these violent protesters. A lot of them are immigrants, that citizens immigrants or legal immigrants, raising hell to protect their illegal patrons.
Well, but Steve, that's not even right.
It's not.
Do you expect black folk to go out there and protect somebody that is being busted for moving heavy grams of fentanyl or moving heavy grams of cocaine or crack? No, you're not going to get people going out there. We're going to arrest free dude. He's been busted for, selling crack, all in the neighborhood to our children. No,
Right. And that's I'm
that's
like,
not
at
what
the end
happened.
of the day, and this is what they're trying to create a whole nother narrative and push away from the fact that they are illegals. These city officials and state governors allowed illegals to be harbored, and given free resources on our tax dollars. And that's
No,
against the
no,
law.
no, 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 no. We know what these bastards are doing. What they're doing is they're trying to bring them in and stuff the census that will be coming up so they can maintain congressmen that they would otherwise lose or perhaps gain one or two. So there would be more influence in Congress to pass some of this garbage that they want passed. And by the way, we haven't touched on it, but same kind of sentiment is this is what's going on. We know these bastards are trying to stuff the next census so they can get more representation in Congress to support their poisonous agendas. They are so low down that what they're also doing is totally disregarding the fact, and I keep saying this because it's important. We've got ISIS, Hamas, uh, Al Qaeda, Iran, North Korea, the People's Republic of China, and some other folk that don't like us a bit. And we have reason to have the highest border security and have had it. And these bastards sat there and opened it wide up because they're trying to take control so they can get boys and girls bathrooms. That's what they're trying to do.
Well,
And they
that
don't
and
care.
amongst other stuff.
Yeah, a bunch of other stuff, that rainbow theology crap. And it's got nothing to do with gay. It's the rest of the stuff that's masquerading under that umbrella. These are selfish, evil, vile bastards, and they are trying to jeopardize the public safety, the integrity, and the moral compass of the United States of America for their little perverted ways. And that's what we have here. And they are jeopardizing people's lives because they've had these open borders the way they've had them, and people don't have to go up and be a suicide bomber and worry about infiltrating into this country in a sophisticated fashion. They just walk across the damn border with a military grade explosives in a backpack
So
and
it says
set
here,
up ready to go.
it says here, federal judge blocks Trump's National Guard deployment to Portland. And this would apply to Chicago amid constitutional challenge. Judge cites constitutional violations while DOJ plans appeal of emergency restraining order. So a federal judge blocks Donald Trump
And
efforts.
I bet I've been practicing law and went to a better law school than he did. I can guarantee you it, and I disagree with that. See, this is like, what have we been talking about? This is a district court judge who will be reviewed by a circuit court of appeals, subject to the review by the United States Supreme Court. And since they're messing around with the executive authority of the United States, it will be expedited, and the stupid son of a bitch will be slapped across his ignorant head. Probably he's a political appointment that should not have been in there, because these days they just want somebody's ideology, not their excellence, experience, competence, and wisdom when it comes to the practice of law and the ways of the world. That's just the way things are these days, with all due respect.
So it says U.S. District Judge Corinne Immergut, whatever, ruled that action was unlawful and unconstitutional, issuing an emergency temporary restraining order to halt the deployment of California's National Guard. The order also bars the use of troops from any other state or Washington, D.C. in Oregon.
They can't do that, and it's not going to work. They're going to slap him down very quickly.
So they said the judge ruling says that the Trump administration the judge says the Trump administration's action violates federal statute 10 USC 12406 and the 10th Amendment.
Doesn't violate the 10th Amendment. That's garbage. And the statute he's talking about has exceptions. What that is known as is the recent posse comitatus statute, saying, and that's the popular name for it, it tries to restrict the use of federal troops to deal with matters interior to certain states, well, to states, but there are exceptions, and this comes under it. This is national security. These bastards opened up the borders to people from countries and entities that have sworn to do us great harm. And it's a matter of national security.
Let me ask you this. What
do these fools want another 911? That's the problem. That's what you're looking at. Do we want another 911? But this time it won't be Twin Towers and 4 hijacked airplanes. It'll be something a lot worse.
So let me ask you this. What exactly is the 10th Amendment?
The 10th Amendment reserves things not specifically granted to the federal government, reserves them to the states.
Mm-hmm. So, and what is the difference between National Guard and federal agents? Because he deployed ICE and federal agents.
The National Guard can be nationalized upon order of the president under certain conditions. There are also reserves that are assigned to the state, and those reserves are part of the military componentry of the United States. So they are right under the president. He's commander in chief. He has authority to use the military power and naval power of the United States to keep peace, to deal with insurrection. You remember how the Democrats were throwing this around for 180 people in D.C. January 6th, 5 years ago, just 180 people. who
Mm-hmm.
were otherwise peaceful. This is insurrection, and that gives the feds the authority.
Okay.
By the way, technically, upon insurrection or invasion, it suspends the writ of habeas corpus, which is the right to review of whether or not somebody's lawfully detaining you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they're stepping on thin grounds, and these fools are the ones that came up with the precedents that allow this.
So the 10th Amendment, I just want to read it out loud for people. The 10th Amendment United States Constitution states that any powers not specifically given to the federal government nor denied to the states are reserved to those respective states or to the people. It establishes a core principle of federalism by ensuring that the federal government only possesses the powers delegated to it by the Constitution, with all other powers remaining with the states or citizens.
Yeah, well,
Can you translate that, please?
in other words,
They're saying that the power has to lie in the state.
there are things called inherent powers of the government. One of the inherent powers of the government is to maintain public peace, dignity, and order thereof the United States of America. And you have the precedent, California sending in the National Guard and the reserves in 1965 August to restore order and watch Los Angeles. You have Arkansas, Little Rock. Governor Faubus was the governor at the time, and what was going on then was the refusal of the state to comply with United States law. So President Eisenhower sent in the troops to impose federal order. You've got long histories of the U.S. Marshals going in because there was lawlessness going on. You've got the situation where you had U.S. Marshals escorting children who had been ordered admission or attendance at various public schools who were being denied that by the Dixiecrats, the Democratic Party in the South. So it's a lot of precedent. And the very first case heard by the U.S. Supreme Court in 1792 was, what is the common law? All law of the land is the common law. It is based on tradition,
Mhm.
tradition, in other words, things that are traditional, and the evolving conditions of society. So we have a long history, 240 years, 200 and yes, about that, 236 years of the U.S. government coming in to bestow order on a place that's lawless. You have what happened during the civil rights era. You have what happened during the 60s, by the way, when the National Guard got sent in many places, including at Kent State at the University of Ohio campus there.
Mhm.
And you got a lot of that stuff. So you just had January 2020 there, Trump was getting ready to bring in the National Guard to keep order, but the Democrat uh, apparatus, starting with Pelosi, prevented that. So now they had what they called an insurrection, which was 180 people. Yeah. So
It says here also, it says the amendment defines the balance of power in the U.S. federal system, clearly dividing authority between the national and state
yeah, but it's been
government.
going on since the Bill of Rights was ratified 1791. So what is that?
It says,
That 131 years ago. That's 231 years ago. So it's kind of old by now, and it's been well defined over the last 231 years. So there's no need for a new definition right now, since the last time it was defined was just a few years ago.
well, it says limitation on federal power. The 10th
I know,
Amendment
but that's all
functions.
defined. That's like you saying. Well, you have a right to remain silent. Sure, we call those the Miranda rights. Everybody knows them. The police routinely give everybody their Miranda rights. They don't have to anymore, but they do. So we know that. So this has only been from an amendment to the Constitution dating from 1791. So it's the same thing here. This is the 10th Amendment from 1791. It's part of the Bill of Rights. How long ago is that?
So what are you saying exactly? Because you're saying it
What
was.
I'm saying is, yes, but we already know what that means because it's been in place since 1791. It ain't nothing new. So they
This
acting
judge
like this
okay,
is a new change in the law.
so it's like this judge is saying, "Oh, Trump is overstepping his federal powers."
Yeah, but what his federal powers are have been well resolved since 1791. That's 229 years ago. So, in the intervening 229 years, what the 10th Amendment is about has been greatly discussed, digested, and well ruled upon and is established. And the circumstances right now are well within the boundaries of what the decisions have been with the 10th Amendment. And then there's another thing. They want to rely upon the Posse Comitatus Act, which was just 3 decades ago. Well, 3 decades ago, 2 decades ago. And there is an arguable point that it doesn't comply with the constitutional law.
So Gavin Newsom posted a federal judge. We just went in court again. A federal judge blocked Donald Trump unlawful attempt to deploy 300 of our National Guard troops to Portland because he wanted to take National Guards from California and place them in Portland. But if he controls the or has authority over the National Guard, doesn't he have the right to tell them where to go?
Yeah, he's commander in chief, and that got resolved way back, way back, more than 100 some years ago. So, yeah, great.
And the Justice Department has made indications that it will be appealing the ruling with arguments that the president retains authority under federal law to deploy National Guard forces in cases of domestic unrest.